Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project and Magnetic Reversal News, bringing you the news you need to know. Postlude, part 3 of 3. This is the end game, folks. The culmination of everything you ever needed to know. What you're looking at is cosmic debris. Some call them nebula. Some astronomers say it's galactic debris. Whatever you call it, it's beautiful. But it is the very matrix of your reality. Not only that, our sun officially has outgassed a C1 flare during the deepest minimum in recorded history. There it is. And it is going to hit Earth sometime on the 11th. These are models we're looking at. This is the best guess. WSA, Enlil, and ISWA, best guesses. And their best guess is it's going to hit between the 11th and the 13th. My guess it's coming earlier. But that's just me. We can see an increase in plasma density happening now. We can see an increase in solar plasma speed increasing now up above towards 450. And the solar wind speed here has not been normalized at this level at all. It's been below 350. So we're definitely climbing into something. We'll also be coupling with the coronal hole when that CME matches us at C1. Now, if it were an X1, all grids would fail right now. We're going to see minor perturbations from this event and another small A flare coming off as the spot turns away from our center disk. Now, it is my prediction that these are signs of things to come. This uptick is a sign of the times. The sun is coming out of solar minimum and will go into cycle 25 sometime in the next 7 to 14 days, culminating with a major tectonic event on Earth, 8 magnitude or greater. We're basing this on science. It's not pseudoscience, but what we're about to read to you is considered pseudoscientists. The last part of the postlude to the Adam and Eve story has been completely erased from the dialogue of humanity. Not only that, it's not even considered as scientific evidence for anything. Now, unfortunately, this couldn't be further from the truth. The truth lies within the words of the historical documents. The truth lies in the words of the accounts of those who lived through it. The truth lies in the dialogue of those that were around to witness the catastrophe. And unfortunately, we have determined that these words are called myth. Unfortunately, the myth is the truth, and the truth is the farce. Mainstream media, globalists, and the people controlling the narrative want you to believe that these effects are because of you. You did it, and you better pay your taxes and be well. You're a slave in a society created based on the information that can control you. And this information is catastrophic, episodic, happens every 7,000 years. And they do not want you to know that the flood of Noah, the Adam and Eve story, these are historical events which lead to the reworking of civilization every 7,000 years, approximately. Nothing is exact. You know why? because they've stolen the information. So we have to read poems to decipher the past, which is not a bad thing. In fact, the rebirth of the new earth will be people of like-minded purpose, purpose-driven lives. Lives driven by the need to survive, not to pay the man, not to pay the taxes, not to obey the laws, but to survive and thrive. The way the universe has meant your life to be. Now, if you want to assimilate into the new paradigm, you're more than welcome. But what you'll be delving into is a new epoch of genetic manipulation, which will lead to a new species of human, the transhuman, which will not be human. In fact, each and every human left on Earth will revolt and fight against the transhumanist idea. There will be a World War III. It will be initiated by the powers that be. But those that remain on the surface and those that make it through the battle, you will be the remaining elements to survive and thrive through the new paradigm. And if the transhumanists make it with their weapons and bombs and misinformation, well, they have a fourth battle coming, World War IV, in which the biological entities of Earth revolt and re-vanquish and retake the power of the planet back to the people that exist on the surface. Overwhelmingly break the oceans. They inundate the lands. Mother Earth receives the deep. Where obstructions are, shores form mighty winds. Rampage where, with oceans piling over oceans, they bury all that is living and moving. Where hills are vanish, buried, submerged with the earth of the motherland. Mountain peaks alone stand forth before the onslaught on our planet, which abates little by little until there comes the cold wind. The motherland is now at the bottom of the earth. An abyss, a vast reservoir of frozen mud, there comes. Out of volcanoes, vapors pouring forth with swirling smoke and molten lava. This is quite salacious and amazing. What does it all mean? Well, I can tell you. It means, and it's quite apparent, that the powers that be are hiding this information from you. Not only is NASA and NOAA throttling the information that comes from our sun with 3 to 5 day delays, as soon as a CME comes off the sun in the last 5 years, the information is closed up. We have no access to it. And that's because the powers that be want to know first so they can make their move, because they don't give a about you. So let's start by saying we care about us. We care about the future of humanity. And we care about the scientific effects of the global calamity that we are all about to live, starting now. It's a cacophony of effects. Many of you have been following this channel because of the grand solar minimum effects. This is a 400-year cycle we're repeating. The second iteration of the 206-year relational cycle John Casey gave us almost a decade ago. There are dozens upon dozens of people that have been warning the masses about the mini ice age that we are entering, the solar shutdown, so to speak. The shutdown of the sun, unlike any seen in modern times. The modern cosmic ray epoch, where cosmic rays are peaking beyond any levels seen in thousands of years. The magnetic reversal of our Earth, which many believe is caused not only by the sun shutting down, but by a galactic wave, which we will cover and you will discover in the talks that we are about to participate in. Bury all that is living and moving. Where hills are, they vanish. Buried, submerged within the earth of the motherland. Mountain peaks alone stand forth before the onslaught. Now, this should give you pause, because that means areas that are high make it every time, or no one would have reported on it. And this is being reported on in the times of the Grecians, the Greek period. The onslaught on our planet, which abates little by little until there comes the cold wind. The motherland is now at the bottom of the earth, an abyss, a vast reservoir of frozen mud. There comes out of volcanoes vapors pouring forth with swirling smoke and molten lava. Now, this poem decries the events in succession of what will actually happen. First, the event occurs. Then the sea level gets jiggy. Floods occur. And after that, the cold comes. We will have time. Factual. Now, this story was handed down verbally, generation to generation, through the 5,000-year period of no written history, prior to the Noah flood. After the Adam and Eve story, when history started to be written again and became the basis for the Greek, Polynesian, and Hebrew alphabet. Factual, indeed. Legendary, of course. Mythological, that's how they unexplain it. Whichever it may be, the story is not only fascinating, but it is now being considered scientific in nature for the first time ever. So if you're listening, CIA, you either need to shut my channel down, or you can suck it, or get your family out of harm's way, because you're well aware of the changes that are happening that you've been hiding from the public since the 1940s. NASA, NOAA, those groups were developed to misinform you, to control the narrative through the modern times, the next 100 years, which now is ending, and it will end in 2040. The 100 years of the disinformation from NASA, NOAA, CIA, and all the other alphabet groups that have been developed to disinform you. Are you listening? If you wish to pursue it further, read Geological History of Central America and Churchward's The Lost Continent of Mu. Churchward makes many mistakes, but his works are interesting reading nonetheless. His treatment of the calendar gate of Tiwanaku makes one question his sometimes cursory methods. Now, what all these people are missing is they did not have a mechanism. They did not have the information we all have at our hands. They do not have the proxy data. We have the facts. Now, history before the cataclysm of 11.5 comes to us in the form of legend. And fortunately for us, these legends have all been proven in the last decade. The bottleneck of humanity some 40,000 years ago during the Neanderthal extinction, the bottleneck of humanity during the Toba eruption 70,000 years ago, and so on and so forth. When you try to blend these two narratives, there is no connection. We need connectors. My purpose is to connect this information for you. It has been disregarded for 5 decades. Half of a century. You have been duped. And now the majority of the population believes in the global warming farce. Now, the reason for this is because now no one would ever look into the historical paleoclimatological record to find out that these climatic changes are natural, normal, periodic, episodic, exactly as predicted. But they're going to blame you. So you continue to pay your taxes and be a slave and lose your life and lose your relationship with your family and beat your wife and beat your kids and hate your neighbor and be an asshole and so on and so forth. This is by design. If you are wondering why you're a slave and you cannot get out of the matrix, I'm telling you, it's because you've been brainwashed. Go into work tomorrow, quit your job, take your savings, bring your family to a rural area, buy a plot of land that costs 1/5 of your savings. Take the rest, buy preps, learn how to farm, get out of Dodge. Over 50% of you listening to this message can do it, but you're scared. You're unprepared. There's a lot to do. You have 2 decades. Do it now. You're going to be dead before then. Do it for your children. Do it for their future. Do it for the future of humanity. Transhumanistic. 5G. All of this instant information is destroying humans. We will not exist in less than 4 decades. Mark my words. This is the changing ground, where you have to make a decision. Do you want to be a survivor or do you want to be assimilated? It's your choice. Now we must leave the pleasures of speculation and return to more serious considerations. Unfortunately, we need to finish this series tonight. We have 4 more pages. These 4 pages are so apocalyptic, so life-changing. They include the works of hundreds of people since this masterpiece was written decades ago, that there is no question that what will transpire in the next few decades will be apocalyptic, world-changing, and will actually decide if humans live past the next boundary. Because we know they will live embedded in computers as transhumanists. We want our actual biology to survive and thrive through the boundary, like we have for almost 1 million years. It is my purpose here on the channel to get humans past that boundary, to call out the fraud, and to stop the control of the elites, the rich pricks that control your lives, that feed you poison in your food. Multinational corporations. In 1901, Monsanto invented aspirin, the most toxic over-the-counter medicine. Take 20 pills and you'll be dead in 8 hours. It costs $1 at the dollar store. Why you haven't picked up on this? And no one knows. And now, there have the flexure point where vaccinations has become a talking point. These vaccinations include mercury and other poisonous elements that have no purpose being in the injection whatsoever, yet they're in there. Your baby, when it is born, is injected with mercury and other poisons on purpose, and the doctors that put it in you do not even know what's in there. I ask you to ask them if they know what's in that injection. 99% do not. And if you read the ingredients and you share it with them, their minds will be blown. Most injections include mercury. This is a toxin. That would be like putting arsenic in an injection to cure your disease. Does that make any sense? There is zero scientific evidence that mercury needs to be in anything. In fact, if you spill mercury on the ground, 1 microgram, the entire planet will react and come to your facility and shut it down for decades. It might even close the doors forever. But yet they inject it into every child that is born. They inject it into every juvenile that needs a vaccine. They continue to inject it in every single human on Earth. For what purpose? I hope you made it this far. If you made it to part 3, then you have a purpose. And the purpose of your life should be to expose the fraud that is pharmaceuticals, that is agriculture, that is the FDA, the EPA, and every other nonsense group with a alphabetical vocabulary. CIA, FBI, FDA, CIA, all designed to control you, to feed you poison, to keep you sick, to propel the financial market. If we all stopped buying food at the store, all stores would close in 1 month. They would all go bankrupt. But you guys don't have the skills to do that. And that is what they're banking on. I hope you're listening to me. My thoughts go back to Georges Cuvier's challenge to the world of science, which he wrote in 1812. Discover the cause of these events. Dr. Hibbins, contemporary adjunct to the challenge, is really an inseparable part of it, as well as Diamond, as well as Robert Felix, as well as Ben Davidson, as well as Adapt 2030, as well as Ice Age Farmer, and on and on. Any good solution to a consuming mystery must answer all of the facts. And the mainstream has answered 0 of them. They've given you bullshit and lies for decades. And if you're waking up and you can hear my passion, I hope you listen to this message. As the years went by and we remained dissatisfied with our concepts concerning the trigger, we concentrated on that part of the puzzle. And guess what? In the 1950s and 60s, a few people understood it. And the CIA intervened and they shut it down. And you haven't heard shit until 2020. Isn't that insane? You should be pissed that this information has been held from you. I'm mad because I entered university in 1989, and by 2007 I had left disillusioned because I was unaware of this. It took me 3 more decades to fill my coffers with information to finally figure out one which answers all the facts is the truth, which is why I started the channel. I want you to hear the facts. I want you to make your own decisions. Don't listen to what I say. Listen to what I speak. The words I speak are the truth. My conclusions are my cacophony. It's the endgame. It's the denouement that I believe. Make up your own denouement. The proof is that the powers that be have lied to you forever. The history you know is fake. The moon landing, the information you were given by NASA is fake. The ice sheets are not melting. They're growing. Fake. Greenland is not melting. I'm going to do an update tonight where they're claiming, the mainstream, that Greenland's rain is melting it. Greenland is at all-time mass ice budget highs over 50 years. Fake. You are being lied to on purpose. And the reason is that the people who are lying to you are being controlled by a small group of people above them that are all been boring underground, making cities to a depth of 4 miles. They've been drilling these tunnels for 5 decades, supplying them with food, supplying them with vertical growing, underground, hydroponics, everything that they need. They're not telling you about it. You should be pissed. 8 billion people should be looking for those tunnels right now. Why aren't you looking? Because you have to go to work. You have to feed your children. You have to get your 401k. You're going to be pissed when this hits the fan. And it's going to come in a solar flare in the next few years. These solar flares will destroy the grid as the grid breaks down. The reason they didn't rebuild the grid is because there's no way to rebuild it. To protect it from what's coming. No way. It can be described best with what I call the kitchen example. Thank you, Chan Thomas. Suppose you took a glass cylinder of mercury at room temperature, and everyone knows it's molten, or liquid under those conditions. Mercury is, in fact, molten at room temperature. I used to play with it as a kid. I used to jiggle around. I put my hand in about 1,000 pounds of mercury in a container when I was in 8th grade because my science mentor allowed me to go in back room and do whatever I wanted. Do I have cancer? No. Did I die of mercury? No. So somebody's lying. I picked up pounds of it in my hands, jiggled around, and dropped it on the ground. The entire grade school where I grew up is contaminated with pounds of mercury because I dropped it all over the ground. No one knows about that. First time I revealed it. Do you think anyone's dying from that school? No, because the school is still there. Someone is a liar. Now let's put an alligator into the mix, like a miniature version of a washing machine alligator. Oh, let's say agitator. In the bottom of the cylinder of mercury, there's an alligator, which is an agitator with a shaft or axle going through the bottom. The cylinder of the agitator and the handle on the end will swirl it back and forth slowly because the mercury is heavy. Now, what we want to learn by this example, if you read it, is the fact that mainstream science does not understand the dynamics of planetary geology. The crust is separate from the mantle, is separate from the inner and the outer core. And we do not know, the fact that there's a liquid metal outer core of iron is not proven. This is all fairy tale bullshit that almost everyone believes. Could you imagine if everyone believed that pink fairy tales flew up your ass and money came out of your nose? That's the same thing. What you believe about the Earth's inner and outer core is the same as purple elephants flying out of your ass. It's bullshit. So you need to start from scratch. The beginning. The beginning is near. And that's the whole purpose. The crust does slip. It's proven. I showed you the positions of the equator yesterday. I don't even know where to find it right now. I haven't even gotten past the first tab. Can you imagine that? We have 1 hour to talk about the part 3, and I'm less than 1 minute in at 30 minutes. That's how much disinformation you've been fed. It's insane. There are many people who have already uncovered that the megalithic structures on Earth show 5 pole positions over the last 150,000 years. Now, the problem is that no one believes that there was any civilization prior to 6,000 years ago. Sacsayhuaman, the Great Pyramids, the Sphinx, these are all tens of thousands of years old. They've made it through. The people that built them knew about these cataclysms. They built them so they would not be destroyed. Are you that stupid that you're still like, were there giants making these blocks? How about smart people making monuments to say, wake up? How about that? As long as the inner Magnetohydrodynamic energy structure remains strong enough to make a molten layer act as near solid. That's where we're living. The shell will not shift its position. To be sure, the shell is shifting gradually. We call that plate tectonics, but it's fake. Plate tectonics is the aftermath of the crustal slip during cosmic catastrophe. It's what happens during the quiet times. It's not the mechanism. This subject is covered excellently in the paper Latitude and Longitude and the Secular Motion of the Pole by Dr. Markovitz, which we shared in part 2. And it's almost impossible to find. I wonder why. However, at the time of the cataclysm, the entire solar system passes through a magnetic null in the galaxy. Now, 50 years ago, the person, Chan, didn't know what this was. This null in the Milky Way. But we do know today. We know about it. We know what was happening. And many people are unaware that we already know. We already know.
I'm Paul Laviolette. People tend to put concepts into boxes, and the superwave idea can't be easily put in a box. It's quite complex and complicated.
Can't be put in a box. Quite complex and complicated. This is what I've been working with for 3 decades. But due to serendipitous events, my channel, other channels, like-minded people coming together at OTF and LeakCon 2019, scientists that have stepped outside of the box are now making a clear picture of what is coming. Stay with us. We are on the cusp of cutting-edge science, and my whole body is tingling right now. And let me show you.
People tend to think that I am proposing exterminations of animals on the Earth by superwaves, and I'm not. All the superwave does is it brings cosmic dust into the solar system. And that's the problem, is the dust. And the dust is, the sun sort of draws it in, and then it surrounds the sun and heats up the sun. The star is going to get very aggravated. It's not going to be like solar cycles, you know. It's going to be continual flaring, causing more catastrophes than meteorites and comets hitting the Earth. They occur more frequently. Core explosions, they call them, galactic core explosions. They occur cyclically. These things do happen quite frequently, but superwave cataclysms can last, in one case, 4,000 years, like at the time of the extinction of Neanderthals. We don't see them coming. It takes us by surprise. You know, you see the bluish-white star in the sky. That indicates the core has exploded, and it's putting out maybe 100,000 times more energy than it was before. And that creates a sort of a galactic wind that...
Did he say bluish white star? Did he say the Kachina star? Is he repeating historical information? It's your decision. You make the call. I've already made mine.
Pushes this dust into the solar system. It overpowers the solar wind. And then, so to speak, all hell breaks loose in our solar system. These dark clouds start coming in, the strange forms in the sky, luminous, leery features in the sky. The first 3 days would probably be the worst, based on seeing an eruption that happened recently in another galaxy. So you should try to get cover, tunnel or somewhere underground to escape the radiation, because, super wave, it's not as bad as the sun, but it can pack quite a wallop for radiation. The killer radiation, though, comes from the sun, and that's when the super wave with its cosmic dust has aggravated the sun to the point of super flare size, like what killed the large mammals, the megafauna at the end of the Pleistocene. And we see evidence of these having happened during the Ice Age, in particular. A bunch of dust came into the solar system around 13,000 years ago. And then we were hit with the big super solar flare. It caused climate to go from Ice Age cold to current temperatures just in a matter of days.
Now that's all I'm going to show you, that video. Please go watch part 20, Earth's Catastrophe Cycle Galactic Superwave, over at the Suspicious Observer's website, if you want to know more. I'm only going to show you a few short minutes because I couldn't listen to that guy any longer. He's on the cusp, but he has no information. And you guys know I've been delving into this 24 hours a day for decades. And I posted the POSTLUDE Part 2 yesterday. And you're listening to the POSTLUDE Part 3. POSTLUDE yesterday only got 4,000 views in 24 hours. That means the powers that be are absolutely quenching that information because it's true. Because I am well ahead of many others. I've been delving into this 24 hours a day for decades. And I do not let other people's opinions affect mine. But I listen to them all and I bring them into my theory. And you're looking at what I want you to draw into is the blue graph. Blue, the purple down here. The purple, I apologize. The purple is Epica 3 dust. And Rolf Wish is the only other person talking about this dust. And La Voilette, which I just showed you his video. This dust comes in and it pisses off the sun. And it begins to get active. And about 2,000-3,000 years after the dust, there's a boom. 2,000-3,000 years after the dust, there's a boom that drops the red graph. Here's the dust, here's the red graph, here's the drop-off. Here's the dust, here's the red graph, here's the drop-off. Here's the dust, here's the red graph, here's the drop-off. Here's the dust, here's the red graph, here's the drop-off. And this is over the last 1,000,000 years. Dust, red graph, drop-off. Dust, the most dust we've ever recorded. The most red graph we've ever recorded. And what happens next? Boom. 140,000 years ago, boom, red graph goes down. Here we are now, boom, peak, red graph will go down. You're living in the go down. And you go down, downtown. Isn't that insane? And what causes it is galactic debris, dust. A wave of dust that we enter as we move through the galaxy. Every 12,600 years. The shell of the Earth is filled. It's freed. And to find a new dynamic model of balance about the Earth's interior. It shifts in the direction of the imbalance of the shell, dictating its new position. Now this shift has been recorded by Mario by going out time immemorial to thousands of sites through his lifetime and taking compass directions. If I believe anyone in the world I will believe Mario buildup reps before NASA, NOAA, or any scientist reading a paper, because this guy is like me. He dedicated his life to taking these orientations. No one else has done this. No one has funding for this. Only Mario buildup reps can be rewarded for his data. And only I can be rewarded for bringing it all together for you tonight. But no one will reward us by sharing this to the masses. They will, in fact, throttle this, just like the throttling happened during the Neanderthal period. Now let's talk about Toba. 70 to 75,000 years ago, all humanity was lost, except for a few, maybe 10,000 people. The global temperature reduced 3 to 3.5 degrees Celsius, which is not major. It has, in fact, been reduced by up to 10 times this in geologic history. What we're talking about is just a minor perturbation in the geologic record, and it almost killed everyone. And everyone tried to record it. Not only that, the human race once came dangerously close to dying out 30,000 years after that. We have papers to prove this. So humans did not wipe out Neanderthals. The sun did. All these links will be below. This video would be 4 hours long if I explained it to you, and I do not have time. But I do have time to tell you about the H4 event. Because it's exactly what we predicted. It's exactly what Graham Hancock, Randall Carlson, and other catastrophists have predicted time and time again. But now we're at a point in modern history where we can bring all geologic history together on this great year cycle graph. So, we all need a dab now and again to bring us down to brass tacks, to the level, to take a breath, to breathe in the air. This is the moment we're living now. So what does the information tell us at this moment? It tells us that we're being lied to by the mainstream, by the powers that be, and by the masses. They've known about this for over 5 decades. This line. Now you're right here. 26,000 years after the last ice age. What's the next blue dot? It's called You've Been Duped. This is the next blue dot. You've been duped. The transhumanists will go one way, and we will go another way. Because the population will be completely eliminated in the next 3 decades. 90% of all the people on Earth will die because of a catastrophe that you were not warned about, which the mainstream is calling climate change. You better be ready. Pay your taxes. Give us all your money, and then it's over, Johnny. Because when the magnetic reversal occurs, solar flares will eliminate the grid, and you will be peppered in microspherules.
Although the winding onset was one of the most robust intervals of biomass burning inferred from the Greenland ice cores, although the source of this burning signal must have been far more remote than sources today. The reason why it's such they got good data is because it was so recent. As it goes further back in time, the carbon gets associated with other things. Radioactive elements. Some megafauna bones in the YDB are highly radioactive.
Shown in the slides.
Relative to
they came from the sun.
Intervals, as it occupied for some bones at the KT boundary. In addition, high concentrations of uranium and thorium were found in the YDB sediment in 6 of 6 Clovis age sites. That means all the sites analyzed, and in 4 of 4 bays
Now, Doug Vogt is one of my heroes, but this guy is from ancient history. He still talks about comets as dirty snowballs, and he's still way off base, but he brings to the forefront much information which needs to be regurgitated. Now, it's my faux pas that I don't realize that the mainstream doesn't know all the things that Doug Vogt and I know, and many other catastrophists. We know about all these events. We assume you know. So when tens of thousands of people are listening to our videos, they're going in without the knowledge that we know, which is unfortunate. These microspherules are on layers, like the Younger Dryas event 11,500 years ago. 12.9 is the onset. So many people are unaware of when these spherules actually sit on Earth. Uranium and thorium, radioactive elements in the bones of the catastrophic destruction of the mammoths are all present, as well as the KT boundary, the Cretaceous Tertiary boundary and stratigraphy that ended the age of the dinosaurs. Same event, same thing. No comet needed, only the sun. And people aren't picking up on this. There's still, even Randall Carlson is talking about a comet. He has not adapted to the electric universe model, solar outbursts, the Z-pinch, the fact that these Birkeland currents caused our solar system. So there are many catastrophists that are still in the dark of the electric universe. It's unfortunate. That's why we're having LeakCon 2019, to bring these concepts together in your mind to solidify what the dust means. What do these purple spikes mean? And why is there a lag between temperature? Well, because the cosmic catastrophe happens and then the Earth catastrophe continues. This is a cycle that's been happening every 100,000 years, time immemorial, with minor perturbations within the 100,000 year cycle. Here's Toba. Toba has this big purple spike. This purple spike. The modern warming, which is totally insignificant. If we can break it down into time frames between cosmic catastrophe and human life, ice ages are in the teal below this green line. Ice age, major Illinoisan period, warming, solar outburst, cooling, major ice age, which lasted 80,000 years, the Wisconsinian. Here's the major epoch, 36,000 years ago. And here is the Younger Dryas event, which this is the cooling, and this is the warming. And the Holocene interglacial. Do you see the normal period on Earth is these blue periods? Each warming for the last 400,000 years has been less and less and less and less. Each warming is less time. The cooling is the most time. We're entering into the next major cooling period, which will extend for over 80,000 years. Those are the facts. Modulation of ice ages via precession and dust albedo feedbacks is a new concept, but it is reported in the literature. Albedo modulation is controlled by desertification and dust contamination of ice sheets. And that means there's lag time. There's other considerations. The micronova is not even visible on the proxy data. Not visible, according to many. And I believe it's not visible. But the after effects are visible, and they're extreme. Here's a close-up of the last 200,000 years. Purple is still dust. The dust comes, perturbs the sun, and then it explodes. And then this happens. And it takes a long time to recover. The CO2 spike is because of the post-apocalyptic outburst from our sun. The magnetosheath, the magnetohydrodynamic switch, the pole shift. Poles have shifted here and here and here and here and here. All of these spikes are associated with magnetic reversals, which are not because they're not the effect. The magnetic reversal is not the effect. The effect is galactic. It comes from far away. It is driven through our universe. The sheath. The magnetohydrodynamic effects occur, which causes these perturbations. And we're about to slip into another drop-off, which will cause CO2 to spike and is not the effect. CO2 spikes because of the effect. CO2 is increasing because we're about to switch our magnetic field. Has nothing to do with you. Has everything to do with space. ThirdEyeSpies.com. Click on ESP Research, Russell Targ, and you will be revealed all the information that Chan Thomas was trying to tell you that was classified from the CIA. His book was not classified. Everything he wanted to say afterwards was, which is why he didn't come out with the POSTLUDE for 7 years. Now, Russell Targ is a physicist and an author who has pioneered in the development of laser and co-founder of the Stanford Research Institute's investigation into psychic abilities. Chan Thomas was involved. But what has recently come across my radar is that many remote viewers and ESP specialists have all seen the event coming in the future. And their information has been blocked by the powers that be. They do not want you to know. In fact, the CIA has employed new ESP people, new remote viewing people, and their information has been held from you because what they're telling you is the truth, and it is catastrophic. And they do not want you to know at all what is coming, which is a moderate crustal slip which slows down the spin, moves the crust in a catastrophic way where many of us, almost all of us, will die if we're not ready for it. Those of you listening that are at high elevations, like me, in places where others have made it, we will survive. If you're underground in a cave with a week's worth of food or so after the event, you will make it. Few of us will do it. I want the most of us to make it, which is why I'm making these videos. It's not just a boom that we all watch and takes over the planet. It's a sequence of events. Now, during each cataclysm, the shell finds a new dynamic balance, which is resolved when the shell has shifted into a position with the ice caps rotating equatorially and melting in the heat of the torrid zone. Now, we have proven this. We've shown you the facts. And the facts are that the dust comes in, the micronova occurs, the dust shifts things. Well, and I don't even have my picture anymore. Here it comes. There. MarioBuildUpReps.com. MarioBuildUpReps.com. There is, I've watched almost all of his videos, and I have been unable to disprove any of them. I haven't been to these places. He has. This man knows how to use a compass. He's an engineer. So I believe I have to. Because if another geologist took a strike and slip of a plane of a sedimentary rock, I would believe it. It's in his paper. Look at the data points this man has provided. He is independent of all the paleoclimatology I've ever done. Graham Hancock, Randall Carlson, all the catastrophists, all of us. I'm sure he's listened, but he did not base his magnetic angles on our talks. He based it on his visit to the megalithic structure. So this is independent, corroborating information that you need to take in deeply. Very few people know about it. New polar ice caps form on the areas moved into the new polar regions. They will not be centered with the axis of rotation, so a new growing imbalance is created to be resolved when the Earth, with the entire solar system, passes through another null zone. So according to Chan Thomas, in this expose, he claims that the pole moves quickly into one position and then back into a new position. And I agree with him. These are the final position of the rotational pole at the end of the event. And what you can see is that it snaps back to almost the same spot, slowly migrating from the past spot. Continuing on a line, 47.1 degree reference, which someone brought up to me has everything to do with the Masonic angle on their symbol, 47 degrees. It's actually 47.1 degrees, folks. That's the position where the pole moves. That's where the crustal slip occurs. The crustal slip may move away from this position and swim around the Earth and the planet, and all the continents may swim around in circles, but they will always come back to 47.1. Slightly in a different southern position. In this case, we're moving north, north, north. The next pole position will be north of the new pole position. And guys, if you don't know, you know where the new magnetic north is? It's about 180 degrees, 180 miles north of this spot right here. Huh. That's where it is right now. The North Pole has moved from right here to right here over the last 200 years. And we're about to go into a magnetic reversal. And this information is adding up immensely. Oceanography gives the answer. IGY data shows the oceanic tides the world over depresses the ocean floors 3/10 of the increase in depth over the water between low and high tides. As surely as there is life left in the universe, there is our Milky Way, wax, galaxy. Why did I say wax? And surely, as there is life in our galaxy, our solar system will traverse another null zone. Now, these null zones, we showed you. These galactic waves. Top scientists believe in them. As mentioned before, the Hale's mathematical analysis lengthens the Wisconsinian era, 14,750 years long. The last cataclysm, Noah's flood, would appear 6,970 years ago rather than 6,500 years ago, which makes sense because we believe it was 7,000 years ago. The end of the Laurentian Ice Age appears to be 11,520. Hale's mathematics shows the null zone versus time structure to be helicoid. And as the universe approaches its half-life point, cataclysms occur at an increasing frequency. Now, this is the bad news coming out from the POSTLUDE. These cataclysms are going to increase continuously, according to this document. It appears that the first half-life of our universe occurred in the middle of the Sudan era, which means that we are in the first of the longer spans between cataclysms after the half-life point. We can now reconstruct the table on page 17 to show 7 eras, 4 in the past, the present, and 2 in the future. And these are Chan Thomas's predictions for your destruction. The first one is now, the next one is 7,000 years from now, and so on and so forth. The next one is now, and so on and so forth. Of course, there are many eras preceding the Wisconsinian era, and there will be an equal number following the unknown era. The only point is we're in this era, and it's coming now. Who cares when it comes in 7,000 or 10,000 years from now? Who cares? I'm alive now, and so are you, and you're listening to me because you care too. I don't care about these idiots that are predicting in 50,000 years or whatever. What is happening now? Why are you watching this video if you don't care what's happening now? H4 abrupt event and late Neanderthal presence in Iberia. Yeah. The Neanderthals went extinct here 39,000 years ago. Boom! Toba erupted here 72,000 years ago. Boom! The Younger Dryas event happened here 12,900 years ago. Boom! And now we're living on the same glacial infarction point where the Wisconsinian glacial period 26,000 years ago was incepted. The Heinrich event, number 14 and 15, was incepted 52,000 years ago, and 104,000 years ago, the Greenland Blitz occurred. These are all glacial periods, which was instantaneous glaciation on the planet. 3 confirmed. 5 confirmed events at the other flexure point, including the onset of the Younger Dryas. This is not a mistake. All of these magnetic reversals, none of them fall on this square where these blue dots are. Guess where they fall? They fall on this flexure point where there's only 2 dots. I wish Randall Carlson looked into magnetic reversals, but he doesn't care about them. He cares about stratigraphic geologic events, which we can see due to flooding. Those occur here. Floods and glaciers occur on these upper 2 pieces. Every 12,500 years, we're fluxed. But in this 12,500 year flexure point, this is the magnetic reversal. This is where Noah's flood occurred just 7,000 years ago. I need to put more blue dots on this graph so that you can pick up what I'm putting down. We have a lot to put down. I have a lot of information in my head. It is burning my soul. Modulation of ice ages via precession and dust albedo feedbacks There's a paper. Just came out. Here's the layman's paper. I'll give you links to all of this. Here's the updated graph. Here are the known pole positions for the last 150,000 years. That means we've been here for 150,000 years. People as smart as you and I, which is like only 20% of us. Now, it appears from legends passed on to us of the Caspian era that man did not just, within the last 10,500 years, he had, make it. Valmiki writes of the Vimanas, of space chariots, the Brahma weapons and Indra's dart of celestial chariots and more, the legends of Mu, Atlantis, and great technical achievements. Do you know about the Antikythera mechanism that they found at the bottom of the ocean that's 4,000 years old? This thing is a celestial computer used to determine the precession of the equinoxes. Legends of Mu and Atlantis, of great technological achievements, as well as moral perversions beyond comparison, spring from the error thousands upon thousands of years ago, way before agriculture started, written language, and other things. How is that possible? Some of the legends carry over the 7,000-year Hudson Bay era, showing retention of knowledge through the cataclysms, time immemorial. We know this. How would I know what I'm talking about if I didn't already know it? No one knows. If we look at Nostradamus, we find that his predictions about 2000 AD, whether we accept him or not, Edgar Cayce predicts a cataclysm in 1999. Hale's mathematics indicates to be the coming year of 2000 AD. These guys were off by a few decades. This is geologic time. It's happening now. The date is 2046. I believe 2035 could be an early point. There is time. You have 15 years to get ready. If you can't get ready in 15 years, you're dead anyway. We all die. Do not worry about your future. Do not worry about cosmic catastrophe. Worry about how you treat your neighbor. Stop being such an asshole. Stop hating the Democrats. Stop hating the Republicans. Those ideas were invented to keep you away from this information. Are you listening? Politics has nothing to do with facts. It has everything to do with controlling the way you believe things. Whatever your parents taught you is what you believe. That's why you're Republican or Democrat. Almost 90% of people who were born that way, that were taught from their parents, believe the same shit. Wake up! Everything you know is a lie. Wake up. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not satisfied with these figures. To me, the next cataclysm is due now. If I had my druthers, meaning if we had the funding, I would put the entire subject into an intensive, all-out applied mathematical program to determine precisely how much time we have before the next cataclysm. Then undertake an intensive study to determine what we must do to survive it. That's what I want to do. Jan Thomas wanted to do this in 1972. I want to do this in 2019. This is never going to happen. The power structure that exists is so tight that they are listening to every word I say. The last video I have published has less than half of the views of the first video. This is not because people don't want to hear it. It's because the powers that be do not want you to listen. Are you listening? I have nothing else to say. Nothing to say. You're a pawn. Prepare now. No one is coming for you. The end is near. You have 2 decades. That's almost the rest of your life. If you're young, I apologize. Come seek out the ranch. I will show you safe places to make it. I want leaders with all of this information to make it through the flexure point. I am dropping time capsules into the earth. I have collected more books, more knowledge, more PDFs, more files than anyone could possibly have ever collected. My purpose is to make this information get through. If people make it to Mars, and if the elites go underground, I will find you. I will create an army to get you. This is the most important thing that I could ever do in the rest of my life. This is my mission. Hear my words.